Hey everyone, Nate from Octave Studios here. I hope you have all had yourselves a great week. It's Thursday, which means it's time for another tips and tricks video. This time we're going to go over how to use Guitar Pro to tab out riffs so that you can show them to bandmates or other people you want to teach them to, as well as how to use that to help you write and program MIDI bass so that you can put that into your Reaper project or studio project for demoing and getting an idea out. Now, I have a little bit more I want to talk about at the end of the episode, so please stick around till then. And without further ado, here we go. Okay, so right now what you can see here is we have our project open again, and I've added some bass here, as you can see. But how did I get that? We're going to go into that right away here. Before we do that, though, let's quickly refresh our memory on what this riff looks and sounds like. Okay, so we want to add some bass to that, and we want to tab that out in case maybe we want to teach someone this riff. So if you have Guitar Pro or Tux Guitar, this is perfect. I'm going to be focusing on Guitar Pro here, but if you have Tux Guitar, which is a free version of this to an extent, you can do a lot of what we're going to do here. As you can tell, I've already taken the liberties of going through and tab this all out, but we're going to quickly start from scratch here. So you would get a new project, you want a electric guitar, overdriven. Title it, let's say, New Song, Demo, by me, I guess. And then it's going to be from a Tips and Tricks, because that's the series that we are in, and why not name it after that? Next thing you want to do is remember your BPM. We were at 160, so you just put that right there, you're good to go. Now notice how it says standard tuning right here. I am definitely not in standard. I am actually in drop A on a 6 string. So you would go to this guitar icon here, click on this right here, and let's go to baritone. After that, what you want to do is go here and click down twice. So now we have our tuning, which is how I have my guitar here, and hit that check mark. As you can see, we have now put our guitar into this tuning, which is just what we want to do. Lastly, if you want to maybe get a bit more in there, I want to kind of get a better sound out of my guitar just listening to it over here. So I'm just going to go into these presets, and we're going to go use the new metal preset. Why not? So we got to now figure out what our beat is going to be. Before we get into all of this, though, I'm going to go over a few hotkeys with you that will be really handy for you to know throughout all this. This will just help you quickly maneuver around all of your notes. So I can just scroll around here using my arrow keys, which is nice. Using the number keys, I can implement anything I want. But what if I want to change the value of these? Well, the beauty is if I hit the minus key, it'll increase its value. And if I hit shift and plus, it'll reduce its value. Now that is going to be really handy for you down the line because you can now just quickly change what it is you want. And I believe I'm just slightly expanding the staff here, so I don't need to worry about that. Another hotkey you want to know is palm muting. So if we're doing like a palm muted here, we would want to just hit the P key there. And as you can see, it just brings it up for me if I want it there. Maybe if I want those two palm muted. There, cool. I got that there and set up. That's wonderful. Next, let's say you want to tie some notes together. Say you have this, but it's sustained, and you just want it to take in that extra volume over here before you shift into the next note. Just hit that L key, and it'll tie these two together. And a really cool thing about Guitar Pro 2 is notice how it's red over there now? That's letting me know my measure is not complete. And in the bottom screen right here, it'll actually let you know what your bar's at. So I have it programmed to 4/4. So I come in here, I only have 2 out of my 4 beats programmed. So I know I have 2 more beats I need to get to fill up this measure. Now, if I want to say bend a note, let's just fill this measure out. Say I want to bend this 3. I'll just hit B for bend. And then you get this screen here, and you can pick what type of bend you want and how far you want it to go. So say I just want a full bend and release. Let's just do it like that. Let's add another palm mute here. Add another palm mute there for giggles. And then let's get into 1 or 2 last things. Say you want a natural harmonic or an artificial harmonic. For the natural harmonic, all you need to do is hit Y. So let's say we want this 2 to be a natural harmonic. There we go. It's now there. Now say we want this next one to be a artificial harmonic. Well, then you hit Alt Y, the opposite one. And say I want this one to be a pinch instead. Now, obviously, I don't think you could do this. Let's actually make that a 3, because I think that would probably work better with the intonation of an actual guitar. And now I've programmed 2 bars of random gibberish. Cool. So those are just basic hotkeys for you to keep in mind, because as we go, you're going to want to know how to do the shifting of your notes. I am going to also use dotted notes, and those are just right here. Everything you need note-wise is in here. Your palm muting, letting stuff ring. If you're slapping, you can pick which hand you're using. There's a slap and pop. Tapping, hammer-ons, pull-offs. We're not using any hammer-ons or pull-offs, but you just hit H for hammer-on or pull-off. If you're doing a sequence where, say, you're doing the 5/7/8 traditional metalcore, except you're hammering it on, just hit H and you got the simple stuff there. But now we want to write the riff. Now, if you're not sure about the timing of everything, what I would generally do is try to find the pulse. So build 2 measures. Let's go... I believe these are quarter notes, right? 1/8 notes. Let's go 1/8 notes of just zeros here. And I'm going to listen to it quickly. Okay, obviously, there is nothing there that resembles what we want. So let's just delete everything so we have a little bit of rest. Okay, so we have this all rested now, so let's just play around to it for these 2 measures and see what the groove should be. Okay, so let's start at the beginning here. I know this is a 0, and I think it's an 8th note, but I think it's a bit longer. So let's throw a dotted note on it. Then I believe I actually pick things up a bit with this being a 16th on the 0 palm muted, and then a 7/8 note into a 0 quarter note here, I believe, back into our main things there. And I think actually I can now get rid of one of those and I should equal this out. So I believe this is a 0, this is a 8, and this is a 7. And I believe I palm mute these 2 as well. And this rings out into this measure. Let's see how this sounds quickly. That sounds pretty close to what I had. And I believe the next sequence I had went like this. And I believe they're all 1/8 notes, which makes this really easy. First, we're just going to go and program what I think I was hitting on the riff there. And now I'm going to go and palm mute what I think needs to be palm muted. Let's hear how this first half of the riff sounds. That sounds pretty close to what we wanted. So now let's copy that, because I believe I followed the riff and the pattern the entire time. Except here, I just changed it to a 12. Let's hear those together. So you would go through this entire process with the entire riff. If you're doing it for yourself, that whatever song you're doing, I'm just going to quickly come over here and copy paste what I did throughout the entire song here. Delete this and bring that in here. So this would be the first riff tabbed out in that process. So now what you'd want to do is quickly go and do that exact same process for the following riff. Instead of going through it with you step by step, I'm just going to copy this over because I want to show you the main part of this, which is how to then use all of this to program your bass. So now we've gone in. I'd already tabbed this out using the same method, just using other hotkeys. So in here, I used my artificial harmonic, I do believe. No, it was a natural harmonic, dur-ka-dur. So I used natural harmonics on here for my upstrokes, my palm muting. We let that 0 note ring out here. And let's just listen to it from the start of that riff so you can hear how that sounds in this program. Sweet, so now you have both sides here. You want to write bass now for this, right? Now, my thought with this on this guitar is that the bass is just going to follow what the guitar does all the way through. So what I'm going to show you will actually make things really easy. For other bass parts, take the premise of this and then go and program it in accordance to the style you want to play. There will obviously be other ways you can go about doing this. But what I would say is if you're doing something that matches the riff exactly, just quickly go, highlight everything, copy it. Now let's add a new instrument, bass guitar. Let's go 5-string. You're going to have to go 5-string for a drop A on here. And that just brings it to its traditional tuning of B standard, where all you need to do is drop that low string. Apply the settings. If you want to go fiddle with the bass, you can. I did a bit in here. And I'll show you that later on. But right now, you just want to get everything programmed. So go to the start here, Control V. Look at what it's done. Oh my, what a mess. Whatever will we do? Well, this may look like it's going to cause you a lot of issues, but fear not. This is actually really helpful because you now have all the note values that you need. So all you need to do is go in and quickly put in what you want and delete what you don't want. And this may seem like a hassle, but it is once you get through the first few progressions, it actually gets a lot easier. Like I said, now we're going to do our legato there, and I believe we went 7, 8, 0, 8, 10, 10, 8. I believe that was the riff process that we had. So now let's listen to this first section. Cool. Let's just do it with the bass now. Nice. So now, same thing as the guitar. Let's just copy paste, knowing that the riffs are the same, but that this part changes only slightly. Wonderful. Well, we know this next section repeats itself, so let's just copy paste that. And this last part just makes a slight change, as you can tell. There's a bend on 7 here with a pinch harmonic and a bend. So we did a double whammy with the shift Y, or the alt Y, I mean. Pinch harmonic. And then we also bent the bent the thing, and it's going to be a bend released. And now let's delete that, and we're good on that aspect. Let's do a little bit of backtracking here and go into this. And I believe all we did was reverse this and let that ring out instead. Then we just reversed it back to the original 0, 8, 10, oh, wrong 8, 10, bend. Now, if all is said and well, we can now go and find that other bend here and delete it. Copy this and paste it. And let's go back to the beginning and hear that with the guitars brought down. Now let's just go through and do the next section of bass. We did a bunch of 0-1 stuff. Let's quickly delete all of that. And let's do this all the way through. Remember to let that ring out. And let's put that as a 5 harmonic. Actually, no, it's not a 5. That's going to be a pop. That's what that's going to be. And now all I'm really going to do, because I know this entire pattern repeats throughout the entire song with the only changing factor being which note I hit, I'm actually going to go and copy these 4 bars, delete everything but that last bit there, because I'm going to want to change that, and put that there. Except that's not a 5, that's a 5 there. And oh no, what just happened? We now have everything we need to copy and paste one more time. We're at the end, and we know these are 1s. Let those ring together again with the L key. Backtrack a little bit. And there you go. You've tabbed it all out. We've gone through the entire process. Now, after this, what I say is copy all the guitar, pan it so you have left and right, and you can have something kind of like this. I have one additional layer that's going to be muted because I'm working on something on the side for a future video possibly. And it should come together sounding like this in the end. Sweet. Now, that's great. You have your bass, and you can now use this bass in Reaper. Now, there's one other thing two other things I quickly wanted to show you. If you hit F3, you get this thing called multitrack. So now I can see my guitar, this empty channel that I haven't done anything with. In fact, we're just going to shift it down 1. So now you have my guitar left, guitar right, and my bass. So now I could take all of that and just have it like that. Hit F3 again. It's down to 1. One other thing you can do is use this thing called Instrument Panel, or Control F6 to bring it up. And if you watch the bass here, you're going to notice as we go, we're going to see where on the note it happens. But not only that, you're going to see the note. So meaning if I need to say harmonize with an A, and I'm not sure which one I need, I'm just going to look in here until I find another A. And, oh, look, this one on the 14th fret of the high string. I can now just click that and change it. Obviously, we don't need that, but here, let's just watch that a little bit so you can see exactly how it looks on here. Because this helps for either learning patterns or for trying to just understand how the riff looks on a fretboard. So that's what I really like about it, is you can see what's going on, and if you figure stuff out, I think even if you highlight it, it would almost, maybe it won't here, but I know there are parts where it'll show you the entire pattern in some areas of what you're trying to do. Oh, scales. Here you go. You can look up scales that you want to learn that will go over this, and you'll have your root notes, and by using this, you'll know exactly what note you need to use for your pattern. This is really helpful if you get into using this to help write solos down the line, which we can get into. So you got all that. That's great. That's fantastic. What do you do? Well, if you're trying to teach someone this, you can do a few things. You can either export it as a PNG or PDF, and then you can just email that file over, and it'll look just like this with the tablature on there, and they can just look at it like a regular tab book and learn that way. I find that is very helpful for getting something done if you're trying to teach some material and you maybe can't bring them into the studio or into your house with them, or maybe getting together is very minimal sometimes. So that helps. You can also export a WAV version of this if, say, you just want to throw all the MIDI together and be like, hey guys, this is an idea I wrote in Guitar Pro. You can do that. You can also take all this MIDI and throw it into Reaper and make it sound just a hair better, not studio or album ready, but still a bit of a better demo quality of things. And to do that, what you would do is export as a MIDI. Now, I've already done this. You'll go find your source file, figure it out, name it, and as you can see, I already saved it as something right there. So be sure to save your project as that. Well, Control S. That is your best friend all the time when it comes to working in these programs. When I was building these tabs, I actually got halfway through one of the riffs, didn't save, and had to start from scratch completely. So always save. So we're in here now. We brought the riff back. Let's quickly turn that off because we don't need it on anymore. We can see now, how did I do this? What we're going to do is quickly click on the start of riff A, and I'm going to add just a few extra tracks here. Go to the top, hit insert on my computer, keyboard here, find my MIDI, expand it to 4 different tracks, and as you can see, it has my guitar, it has all the MIDI combined into one, and then it has my bass. We don't need either of these, so we can delete them. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind when it comes to the electric bass is knowing what notes on your MIDI keyboard will work. So if I pull this up, as you can see on mine, I have the SI bass guitar, which came with Cakewalk. It's free, you can get it. And this goes up to drop C. If you got anything past drop C like we do in drop A, you'll have to do something else, and I'll show you that as we go here. But just first things up, you'll want to put that in your chain. And next up, you want to know exactly where everything can go. So with the SI bass guitar, it can only read notes between C2 and C5. So what you're going to want to do here is scroll everything up to C2, since it was labeled on, it was actually labeled below C1. It was labeled on A, and I'll show you why we have it on C2 here very shortly. But take everything up to C2 if it's where it is, or what you want to do is just 1 octave up. So if, say, this was just on D1, I'd take it up here. And if it was on C1, I'd take it up to C2. But anything below that, keep in mind how many semitones you need. But C2, that is your lowest note that this VST can produce. Hit Control F2. And let's give everything a velocity of 120. And the last thing you're going to want to do is take a listen for any notes that maybe should be extended. So, all those notes that we let ring out, they might not have rung out. So what you're going to want to do, you don't have to do this right this second in this example, is go through that and make sure that all the notes you want ring out properly. And then the other thing you're going to want to do, if you notice I have these slaps, where'd they go? Right here, these slaps right here, we're going to want to move these up to C5. And not only that now, because of a trick we're going to want to do, I'm actually going to want to copy this entire track. And in this top one, I'm going to delete these two things I just did. And in this bottom one, I'm going to delete everything else. Because what I need to do to this top track now is not only bring this SI bass guitar into play, but I also need to shift it down a few semitones so that I can get it to drop A. So with this here, I'm using a pitch down shifter, which comes free with Reaper, and I'm just shifting it down 3 semitones so that I get it into my proper tuning. So let's hear what this sounds like with and without. Now, notice it doesn't sound that great. That's okay. Again, we're just trying to build ideas. But did you notice how you could hear all those notes in this sequence that needed to ring out? And if it's easier, just wait to find every note. Control click. And there you go. Now let's do the same thing here on this low note. Now we should be able to. Well, we could probably tighten that up just a hair more. And if you're wondering, oh my goodness, where are the slaps that we programmed? Don't you worry. They are right here in the bass section that we decided to not get rid of. Now, yeah, again, it sounds a little weird, but in the context of what you're trying to do, you're just trying to create a demo idea so that you can get everything across. So after you've gone through and adjusted all that, you'll want to throw an amp sim on it and see how it sounds in the mix. As you can see, I've already done all of that on mine. See how it sounds with your guitar and see how it sounds with your drums. Let's give it a listen and see what this bass guitar did. But I guess first and foremost, let's hear what throwing an amp sim on that bass guitar did. It gave it just a bit more. Now let's listen to it A-Bing it, turning the amp sim on and off. It's amazing what a little bit of your plugin use will do to something if you just put in the work to make sure everything's right. So as this is set up, we should have a bass guitar that is played basically as tight to a grid as possible with our programmed drums. Now, the last thing we're going to do that I hadn't done yet is take all of this, right-click, hold, drag it over, H. Let's humanize it a little bit. Let's have it a little bit ahead. Let's make the velocity stagger just a hair, and the timing just not a whole lot, but just a bit. And with that, let's throw everything together and see what it sounds like with those guitars of ours. And that is how you can program bass guitar in Guitar Pro, export that MIDI into Reaper, and using that MIDI to help create a demo or pre-production idea before you hit the studio. And that's also how you can tab your guitars out. Now, I did skim over quite a few things because the basis of Guitar Pro is very simple, but it's also very intricate depending on which route you went. We just tackled some very minute basics in Guitar Pro to be able to program this bass. And as we go down the line, we will probably get into more intricacies within that program. With that, thank you for sticking around till the end. I want to let you know a few things. I started a Patreon for the channel, so if you want to support this channel, whether it's through my tips and tricks, the covers, the podcast that I put out, please go to the Patreon. It's in the description. Donate what you can. Everything you guys donate will go towards helping those 3 shows, mainly the podcast and tips and tricks. If we have to say get lighting, that'll benefit the covers as well. But mainly it's helping make sure that I can provide this content for you and ensure that the quality continues to improve and that you guys are getting the information you need. With that as well, this past weekend I had DJ Temple of Without Mercy, Temple Entertainment, and the Temple Music Academy come down to the studio before a show here in Medicine Hat to talk to myself, Matt, and Sean a bit about his life as a musician, some things he's learned as a musician and business entrepreneur, and his overall journey so far. And I really do feel like there's some good takeaways that everyone could take from that. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Concrete Wasteland podcast. It's on Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes. You can also find it on SoundCloud. And keep an eye out because I will try to be releasing a video episode to go with the podcast, as well as possibly a edited, abridged version of part of our interview as a tips and tricks series, because I do feel there was some very valuable information that DJ put out there that is helpful for everyone who is willing to listen to it. With that, I hope you all have a good week. Best of luck with your recording or bands or whatever you're doing, and I'll see you all next week.